So anti-hydrofracking activists are trying a new approach now that the latest DEC report is out. So far, the opposition had been largely focused on the risks of contaminating the water supply in the state. But now, some are questioning whether fracking actually makes economic sense. That's a big piece here. They are pointing to new estimates of the gas reserves in the Marcellus Shale, which are now significantly lower than previous estimates. Joining me from New York City is actor and activist Mark Ruffalo. Mark, it is good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So you guys had been before arguing that this is all about water safety. Now you are trying a different approach, and honestly, you're hitting them in the wallet. Do you think this is going to work any better?
Well, I think it's a powerful way to get to some of these other arguments. We've been winning on the water argument. Now, with this new estimate by the USGS, which has downgraded the economics and the amount of gas in these shale plays by 80%, I think it's time to throw out all the numbers that they've been using to come up with what their economic forecasting is for the state. Just the other day, Joe Martens from the DEC came out with a bunch of numbers on reserves, on jobs, on residuals, and on royalties that are no longer relevant. All of those numbers need to be thrown out. The fact of the matter is that when we look at it, they've been saying that hydrofracking, that the Marcellus Shale was a Saudi Arabia of natural gas and will last for 100 years. Now it's looking like more like it'll last for 5 years on what the U.S. used in gas in 2011. And instead of 100 years of gas, we'll have 100 years of toxic industrial wasteland for upstate New York.
Yeah, I mean, what's particularly for upstate New York, the jobs and the economic piece of this is the most important, I think.
That's what's been driving the debate. Yes.
Right. So there are a lot of people who say, particularly if they live in the Syracuse area where the watershed is protected, or the New York City area where the watershed is protected, they say, okay, great, you've protected my water, that's great, I feel good about that, and upstate needs a lot of jobs and they need them badly. So what do you say to those folks who are like, look, I'm inclined to believe the numbers, I need a job, I haven't had one in a long time?
Well, you can live in denial. I mean, you could say, I don't believe the numbers, but the fact of the matter is the U.S. Geological Service came up with these numbers. They are hard, serious numbers.
Yeah.
And the places that we're seeing them do hydrofracking, these are transient jobs. They come and go as the gas comes and goes. It isn't a sustainable economic model. And it has never been. Boom and bust models notoriously bring an influx of some cash to a few people. They last a very short period of time, and then they move on. This is not the answer for New York State.
What is, do you think?
I think a real robust renewable energy policy that the governor has a chance right now. This is creating a great opportunity for our governor to step out on the national scene and create a renewable energy economy in New York State that has a manufacturing component, a transmission component, a leads type efficiency component, and then just the maintenance component. I mean, we have everything we need in this state to be a leader in the world on renewables. We can manufacture this stuff.
Do you see any role, just to interrupt you for 1 second, do you see any role at all for hydrofracking? Or are you of the group of folks who say, hydrofracking, no, period, forget it. It can't be done safely, I don't care what you say, I'm not buying it, no?
I think the jury's still out on hydrofracking. There's just no compelling long-term scientific evidence that this can be done safely. There have not been enough studies. We're rushing forward on something that's going to be there in another 20 years. It'll be there in 10 years. It'll be there in 5 years. There's just not enough information yet. It's a relatively new, this hydraulic, slick water, horizontal drilling is relatively new. And there isn't enough science on it. And the science that is on it is pretty damning. Can it be done safely? I have no idea. But the way that they've been doing it now, from what I've seen, from traveling around and seeing this being done and talking to the people on the ground, who are suffering, whose lives are being destroyed because of it, I don't see it's worth it.
So
if it was 80%, if it was these high numbers and estimates were true, then possibly, but is it really worth it for 5 years of gas to put 22,000 wells up and down the Delaware River? Is that really...
Do you believe, though, that the Cuomo administration is open to hearing what you have to say and other anti-fracking advocates have to say, or do you believe that they're going through this process, but they seem to be having their minds made up in terms of allowing drilling?
I think Governor Cuomo is being smart about it. He's saying rely on the science and not on emotion.
But that's a platitude, with all due respect.
Yeah, I know. I know, but by the end of the day, Governor Cuomo is going to have to rely on the science. And as science, there's more and more compelling science that this is not the way to go. And so if he's smart, if he doesn't want to be a governor that has literally all of these problems, he's about to open a Pandora's box for himself. Once he starts drilling in New York State, and we will have the problems, there's no doubt about it. Everywhere they've done it, they've had the problems. Once the accidents start happening, once floodplains start carrying hydraulic fracturing fluid into people's watersheds, once the explosions happen, he owns it. He's going to own that. And I think he's smart enough to know not to put that around his neck if he's serious about being a national leader.
He's been very careful not to have a personal opinion at this point, to leave it to the DEC to say, right. So you guys are
He's giving himself quite a bit of wiggle room.
So far.
But I do think...
So far.
Yes, but I do think, listen, you know, the gas industry has been running these commercials, these Exxon commercials, right? We're coming out with our own commercials that have real people, that's funded by real people, talking about real problems that they're facing. What the governor and what the gas industry has left out of this equation is the real human price that's being paid for this right now.
So
and it far outstrips.
We're going to be seeing those, I understand, later in the month. You're going to be taking the wraps off that ad campaign, and you're looking to fund it from a grassroots, sort of a bottom-up effort. Is that right? Like move on a little bit?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And you know, this is a huge mobilized group of people that reaches all different kinds of economic spheres and political attributes, and it's very motivated, I have to say. I've never seen anything like it.
And how far do you think all those folks are willing to go? I mean, they've predicted lawsuits, but do you think we're going to see civil disobedience? Are we going to see people getting arrested? Are we going to see people lying down over drilling wells or whatever they might do in hopes of blocking things?
Well, we're seeing the people of the world awakening to the idea that we've gotten to a place where the people are not being taken care of. Special interest groups seem to have infiltrated our political scene, seem to be running it in a lot of ways, and people no longer trust certain long-term protective measures that have been put in place to protect us from being exploited. And so we see the tar sands, 1,200 people were arrested for the tar sands protests in Washington, D.C. We're seeing people waking up. And I'm telling you, when people are afraid enough, they will stand up. And I know already, people are already talking about, if they start drilling up and down the Delaware River Basin, there's going to be civil disobedience.
Well,
there's going to be civil disobedience. There's no doubt in my mind that that's where this is headed.
Okay. Well, obviously, it's not over. We're going to be looking for that ad campaign. We're going to be following the story. It's of utmost importance to folks all over the state, really, and folks who are watching from outside the state. I want to thank you in the meantime for your time, Mark Ruffalo. It's good to see you. Thanks a lot.